What's up, pumpers? Jerome here with another TBC video. I just wanted to do a little video on some of my favorite consumables for Battlegrounds, for PvP, open world PvP in TBC. Some of these are absolutely busted. Really wanted to talk about a couple that I've been absolutely loving. If you like the video, don't forget to throw the video a like and subscribe as well. Gonna do a lot more videos on sort of niche mechanics people don't know about, fun items in the game, interesting overpowered stuff. So a lot more coming. Really enjoying TBC so far, so we're going to be doing a lot of TBC content. One of my absolute favorite items in TBC and Classic WoW Battlegrounds World PvP is the filled Festive Mug. Acts as a slow fall on demand with a 5-second cooldown, 30-second duration on the slow fall. Basically the best, most reliable slow fall for any class that doesn't have a built-in slow fall already. Really a lifesaver for a lot of different classes. My warrior loved it, my druid loves it. You get it from the 4th of July event, the New Year's Eve event as well. You just fill up a mug with the ale outside of the city, and if you do this with a bunch of mugs, you can actually save quite a bit of the filled Festive mugs. They sort of stack in your inventory. You can do it at the bank as well with a little trick, and get a couple hundred of these, and they're just absolutely fantastic for slow fall. I cannot stress enough how many games I've won with this mug. It's such a high value, high skill item to use. Everyone will see what you're doing. They're going to respect it. They're going to be impressed. Just an absolute game changer to have. I love Arathi Basin with this. It works well in Warsong as well. Jumping over the front of the bases is really good with slow fall. Consistent slow fall is not easy to get, and this is the best way, in my opinion, to slow fall. Just an absolute must-have item for PvP. Next up, we have a pretty new item. This is a new one in TBC. Only recently learned about this one. The Sulfuron Slammer is 4 fire damage every 3 seconds for 6 seconds. So what that means is it breaks poly, it breaks sap, it breaks any sort of effect that would break upon taking damage. So I don't know if you understand how powerful that is, but as a warrior main in Classic, if I had an on-demand way to break poly, the second you see that poly casting, you just press the slammer, and you know that it's going to break that poly. Just an absolute game changer. So strong, so useful, and so underrated. They're about 20 silver each in the Grim Guzzler in the Blackrock depths, so it takes a little bit of a trek to get out there. You can stack up quite a few of these. They do not really sell very well in the auction house. People don't quite seem to understand how strong they are. Really, really, really great on-demand damage if you're a flag runner. I can think of so many situations where the enemy flag runner was running a mage with a Presence of Mind polymorph, and my warrior was just helpless against this unless I had Skull of Inventing Doom, which was, rarely on my character at the time. So this is a much more reliable way to deal with that. There's really no downside. There is, well, actually a little bit of a downside. So you get the drunkenness effect where your character will kind of walk a little bit not quite straight as you're trying to move. Especially noticeable on flying mounts. The flying mounts will try to take a direct detour downwards. But other than that downside, these are really, really, really busted in PvP. People don't understand how busted yet, but they will. And if there was any sort of tournament around at Arathi Basin, I'm sure these would either be banned or be taken by pretty much every single player all the time to avoid getting polys, getting saps. Really, 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 really good item. Next up, we have the Noggin Fogger Elixir. Still great in TBC. Still a must-have. Not only do they make you a lot smaller, which is a must-have in PvP, they also give you the slow fall, which is incredibly useful for Arathi Basin, for Warsong Gulch. The smaller size, you get the slow fall. Really, 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 really great. Really cheap to get these as well. You can just buy a bunch of them. And little tip, if your inventory is a little bit full, you can actually buy them and then sell them back to the vendor, and then buy them from a different vendor later on. So if you have a really messy inventory, but you plan on doing a full day of organized PvP, you don't want to go back to Gadget Stand over and over again, great way to do it would just be to sell these back to the vendor. Yet again, 1 in 3 chance of getting slow fall or underwater breathing, which is also the skeleton. And the third option, of course, is the where you get really, really tiny, the shrink option. So you don't really want the skeleton. There's a nice handy macro I'm going to show right now on the screen. that will avoid the skeleton. Basically, as you're cycling this macro, it will constantly remove the skeleton because it doesn't let you mount, which is the only real downside of the skeleton, underwater breathing. But yeah, just a fantastic must-have consumable. All the best players use them. There's a very big competitive advantage to having them. And trust me, when you see a really, really well-geared warrior, for example, with the Noggin Foggers, he's really tiny, he's going crazy, got all the consumes, you know that dude is legit. And yeah, just there's a little bit of respect there as well, because you know good players use Noggin Foggers, and bad ones don't necessarily use them. So just worth noting that. Next up, we have the Sheen of Zanza. I personally think these are a must-have for any pre-made. So let's say you're against a bunch of pugs all day, and then you roll into a pre-made. You've got to be ready to pull out the big guns. The big guns are every single one of your 15-person Arathi Basin pre-made. Having a Sheen of Zanza, first spell reflected with a Sheen of Zanza is a guaranteed 3% spell reflect. I would say that's really the main draw here. The 3% chance to reflect spells, not nearly as relevant as the guaranteed first reflect. You could always replace the Sheen with something else and get that guaranteed reflect anyways. Still worth it, still great. Must recommend for pre-mades. Always keep one in your inventory. Next up, we have the Nightmare Seed. Really, 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 really underrated consumable. One of the probably most underrated in the entire game right now in TBC. Nobody talks about them, nobody uses them, and yet they are so broken. So Nightmare Seed is a 30-second, similar to Last Stand, a 30-second 2,000 health increase. This works on any character in the game. So it has a shared cooldown with Hellstone, and obviously Hellstone is more health, 2,400 health versus 2,000, but you can't think of it that way. Think of it much more like this. If you are getting under fire in a blacksmith fight, in a warsong fight, running a flag, are you really gonna not have Mortal Strike on you? Of course you will. So if you have Mortal Strike on you, that Hellstone is only gonna be healing 1,200. Not nearly as good as having 2,000 additional health. So yeah, Nightmare Seeds are extremely good in any sort of warsong, Arathi Basin, Eye of the Storm, any sort of competitive PvP at all. Must recommend. Way more versatile than the health cookie, which of course you can still have both. You can use both depending on the fights. I wouldn't be popping Nightmare Seeds on every fight, but on that initial fight, that initial flag run on your druid, it's really great to have that extra 2,000 health, and in my opinion, a lot more valuable than a health cookie in those scenarios. Next up, we have the infamous Magic's Dust. Still great in TBC, even though CCs are capped at 10 seconds. Of course, still really, really valuable to have Magic Dust. A must-have in Arathi Basin. Really fun flex against pre-mades and Warsong. Eye of the Storm, it'd be great, I'm sure. You could do a lot of big plays. And yeah, just a lot of fun to have Magic Dust. Get a really efficient farming route. Right now would be a great time to farm Magic Dust because nobody's doing it, and there's multiple layers on pretty much every big server. So you can layer swap, turning 1v2s, 1v3s. You can do crazy things when you have enough tools at your disposal. And why limit yourself? Honestly, Magic Dust is just a lot of fun. Next up, we have the Elixir of the Searching Eye. So this is a 15 stealth detection potion. 5 more than the Cat's Eye Elixir from Classic WoW, which pretty much all serious PvPers were using in their pre-mades. So if you really want to have an advantage against rogues, against druids and Warsong, Arathi Basin, Eye of the Storm, it's very, very recommended. You have a couple of these handy on your playmakers, your rogues, for example, to make sure that they can detect stealth. Also great on your druid flag runner, of course. Get extra stealth detection, 5 gold. Wouldn't use it all the time, but nice to have, all the tools in your inventory so that you can whip them out right when you need them for that big known pre-med you have a rivalry with, for example, or just, to flex on somebody. It's always nice. Next up, we have a personal favorite of mine. I've been using it all the time, the Greater Rune of Warding. We're talking 25% chance to absorb 400 physical damage every 90 seconds for an hour, and these work just like weapon oils. You apply it to a piece of armor, and it just persists even through death. Even if you take the piece off, the effect will go away, but if you put the piece back on, it's still on, so it's locked to the item itself. Really, really, really great for healers, for anybody taking damage, frontliners. I mean, I just cannot sing the praises of this item enough. Absorbing damage, mitigating unnecessary damage, massive for 1v1s, massive for every single fight. You're always going to get this proccing, always going to be good. great in PvE as well, unfortunately, which is driving the price up. The greater Rune of Warding is currently about 7.5 gold in our server per, but the cost is only about 2 gold. So you just got to find your guild blacksmith, get those corium bars to them, and have them make you a couple dozen of these, because you're going to save a lot of gold, and you're going to be making them in a bulk that most people aren't going to otherwise have. You know, how many people are using, 40 greater Rune of Warding over the course of a week? Not that many, but if you're PvPing, you might want to use them. So having someone make these in bulk is super, super important. Next up, we have invisibility potions. So underrated in TBC. Nobody talks about them. Invisibility potions are a must-have. If you've got a serious elemental shaman, for example, having invisibility potions is the difference between winning and losing key team fights. Just sort of pop up on the side in the worst possible spot, casting spells, just getting everything off. Invisibility potions are still a game changer, and now that nobody thinks about them, they're even better. Super, super must recommend for most casters. Anybody that wants to make big plays, invisibility potions are your secret. Well, that's all I have for today. Let me know if you have any other PvP consumable tips or any just tips in general. Put them in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and subscribe. If you want more content like this, I will definitely be doing more in-depth niche stuff about this game, learning more about TBC with you, just getting you all the knowledge I can possibly get. And yeah, it just should be a lot of fun to keep with me for the journey. Remember to always feel good, and I will be back with another video very soon. Thank you very much.